I declare my interest as on the register, and I also declare a particularly awkward conflict, which is that, as the Noble Lord Hannan referred to, recently I published 2 books on this very subject, economic growth. And every time that the government announces another problematic economic policy, sales of my book go up. So I could, in this speech, be accused of standing here to promote my books, and I apologise for that embarrassing conflict, which I can do little about so long as the government continues to have such dysfunctional policies. Both sides of the House want GDP per capita growth. The government want it to provide services and benefits to citizens, and Conservatives want the same, although they also want to put more money every year in people's pockets, believing that that's a better way to promote individual happiness than through government expenditure. In the early 2000s, as the Noble Lord Hannan referred to, our GDP per capita was near parity with the US. The economy was growing steadily under Blair, state expenditure about a third of the economy, taxes about a third of the economy, regulation reasonably moderate. The UK generally acknowledged to have the best economy in Europe, provided, of course, by the Thatcher and Major governments which Blair and Brown gratefully inherited. But since 2007, GDP per capita hasn't gone up significantly, whether here or, as several noble lords have mentioned, in the social democrat countries of the EU. GDP per capita has steadily increased in other countries. The US is now 40% higher than us, with much more cash in the pocket of the average worker in the United States as a result. Just go over there and see the difference. Policies pursued by both major parties in the UK since around 2005 are responsible for this. Bigger and bigger government, higher taxes, metastasizing regulation. Our new Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has acknowledged in the other place that since 2007 we were mostly no better than Gordon Brown had been in the Labour Party. But realising our errors, we have changed, while the Labour government, in contrast, have doubled down on a growth-destroying approach. When your GDP per capita is low, you cannot afford to offer to your people all the things you would like to. The more you spend, the more your economy stalls. The problem worsens each year, year after year, so we end up where we are, a large, intrusive state, too high taxes, far too much regulation, no money and no growth. A new regulator each week, unpardonably targeting successful sectors whose growth will now fall away under the assault of fines, subventions, DEI, ESG, and on and on. Employment this week is down. Of course, what did the government expect? Yet the OBR and the IMF still mainly predict positive, albeit anemic, growth. And regrettably, they still prioritise growth in overall GDP rather than in GDP per capita. Anybody in touch with the economy, which this government sadly seems not to be, knows that to assert the economy is growing is nonsense. The economy is right now either flat or shrinking. And, as my noble friends, Lords Agnew and Frost, pointed out, with our population growing by some 0.75% per year, GDP per capita is therefore definitely shrinking. This means that we now, in this country, have in our midst, right now, millions of personal recessions, with all the human unhappiness that this entails. The Chancellor has finally realised what a disaster the non-dom policy has been, and has importantly said that growth will trump net zero. So can I ask the noble minister, please, will they now get rid of the centrally imposed heat pump diktat? Will they now reduce the growth-destroying green subsidies? Will they now allow further growth-promoting drilling in the North Sea? My Lords, to conclude, how bad will it have to get before the government realise that they are on precisely the wrong track? How bad will our economy be by the time a reversal in policy is forced, which it will be, on the government?